Welcome back. Hello, and I'm really glad that you're here today for class 2. Let's just take a moment just to arrive. Just noticing what's here in this space, in the space you're in at this time, with nothing to do, nothing to get right. Just maybe taking in a deeper, soothing breath here, allowing yourself to arrive. And today, this week, our focus is on bridging the gap, understanding the causes of fatigue. In class 1, we noticed energy as it shows up physically, mentally, and emotionally. And today we explore influences our energy and what quietly drains it. So fatigue isn't just tiredness, it's information that the mind and body are communicating to us. So we learn to listen with care and curiosity rather than pushing through or trying to fix it. We'll also touch on some common meditation experiences, the wandering mind, the restless body, or a sense of just not doing it properly. If you've noticed any of these, then you're not alone. These are all completely normal, and noticing them is where the practice begins. So, as always, approach today with curiosity and not judgment, with kindness, not effort. Feel free to pause and have a break, do whatever you need to do. Because that there is managing fatigue with awareness and care. Before we begin today's session, let's just take a moment to check in with your practice over the last week. There's no right or wrong way for this to have gone. This is simply an invitation to notice and reflect. So gently ask yourself, how has my practice been going for me? Maybe taking in a breath, and just notice what's here. In your thoughts, feelings, or physical sensations in the body. There's no need to analyze or judge your experience. We're not trying to improve or correct anything. Simply observe with curiosity and openness. If it's helpful, then here are some prompts that might guide your reflection. What felt easy or enjoyable in my practice this week? Were there any moments that felt challenging, frustrating, or surprising? Turning your attention to frequency and consistency. How often did I manage to practice? If practice did happen, what helped me find the time or space for it? What made practice more difficult at times? And equally, what supported or encouraged my practice, even briefly? Finally, bringing in some self-compassion. What would it feel like to relate to my practice with the same kindness and curiosity I'd offer a friend? And how did the other self-care activities go? Did you answer the reflective questions in the manual? How was the raisin exercise? And how did the 9 dots exercise go? Remember, this reflection is not about judging yourself. It's not about doing mindfulness perfectly. It's simply about noticing, pausing, and gently tuning into your experience just as it is. Because every insight, whether it's large or small, offers useful information for your ongoing practice and your energy management. So maybe just taking in another deep breath here. Letting go of that practice, the reflection. And when you're ready, let's begin today's session. Now that you've reflected on your practice, let's just take a moment to check in with our energy using the 3-zone model as a guide. So just notice your energy as it is without judging it as good or bad. Simply observe it with curiosity and kindness. So you may ask yourself, am I in the green zone? Am I feeling steady, comfortable, and at ease? My mind clear, my body relaxed, emotions balanced? Am I in the amber zone, starting to feel slightly stretched or distracted? Maybe there's some mild physical tension. Or am I in the red zone, feeling drained, overwhelmed, or exhausted? If you are, then I suggest pausing this and coming back whenever you feel ready. So this check-in isn't about fixing anything or trying to change your state. It's simply about noticing where you are, acknowledging it with kindness, observing your thoughts, feelings, and your energy as they all interact. You might notice that one bucket's more full than the others, so physical, cognitive, emotional, and that's perfectly normal. Perhaps giving it a gentle label like tired or stressed. And breathe into that awareness. Remember, you can use this 3-zone model whenever you want to. It's just a way of checking in with yourself and building our awareness, which can mean that we can mindfully manage our energy over time. Today, we're exploring a few simple ideas to help us better understand fatigue, attention, and how mindfulness can support us in everyday life. Our focus is on 2 key skills: deepening awareness and strengthening attention, both essential when we're learning to manage energy more wisely. We'll begin with autopilot, those moments when we move through the day without really noticing what we're doing. Autopilot isn't a problem, and every mind does it. But recognizing when we're on autopilot is often the first step to becoming more intentional with our energy. Then we'll look at the spoon theory, which is a practical metaphor for understanding how much energy we have and how it gets used across the day. It reminds us that pacing, rest, and self-care aren't indulgences, they're essential when living with fatigue. We'll gently touch on some neuroscience too, how attention shapes the brain, supports focus, and reduces some of the mental strain that drains our energy. We'll use the triune brain model as a simple way to understand how different parts of the brain respond to stress and everyday experience. And we'll look at 2 key brain networks: the default mode network, which is active when the mind is wandering, replaying, or ruminating, and the task positive network, which is active when we're focused on what's happening right now. Understanding this helps us see that attention drifting isn't a failure, it's just what the mind does. Mindfulness, especially the breath, becomes a gentle bridge, guiding attention back again and again without force or judgment. And we'll finish by touching on the home practice, because this is where the real change happens, and it's the small, consistent steps that you take between sessions that's going to help you manage your energy more wisely. At the start, it can be helpful to notice the difference between awareness and attention. Awareness is broad, and it's like the big light in a room that illuminates everything around you, giving you a sense of the whole scene. Attention, on the other hand, is focused awareness, and it's much more like a torchlight shining on one particular object or area. Our capacity to pay attention is innate, meaning we don't have to learn it from scratch. The challenge is that attention is often hijacked and pulled away by thoughts, feelings, or uncomfortable sensations, often without us even realizing it. Research shows that our minds wander about half of the time, drifting into the past or worrying about the future. But we tend to feel happier when our mind is resting in the present moment. Each moment we focus on something, whether it's pleasant, unpleasant, or neutral, we are investing cognitive, emotional, and physical energy right there. So this links directly to Vedana, the raw feeling tone of experience. When we habitually focus on discomfort, worry, or self-criticism, we can unknowingly drain our energy. When we notice sensations with curiosity and allow them to be just as they are, we often conserve energy and begin to build a steadier, more compassionate relationship with ourselves. Today, we're not trying to stop the mind from wandering, and we're not aiming for perfect focus. We're simply learning to notice where our attention goes, how it shapes our energy, and how to guide it back gently, again and again. The invitation here is to try out the clapping hands exercise. So we're going to be clapping our hands quite hard and then completing a brief body scan and awareness exercise. So if that doesn't feel okay for you, then please feel free to skip this and move on to the next slide, or just watch what happens and picture it in your own mind. Before we begin, just take a moment to prepare your space. Find a position where you feel comfortable and are unlikely to be disturbed. Aim to have your feet in contact with the floor Adopt an upright but comfortable position. There's nothing to achieve here, we're just arriving and preparing for this practice. So bringing your attention to your hands by placing them in front of you, maybe chest width apart. And the invitation is going to be for you to clap your hands 3 times as hard as you feel comfortable, counting down 3, 2, 1, and then clapping 1, 2, 3. So when you're ready, let's begin this together. And as you clap, notice the sensations between your fingers, the sound of the clap, the temperature in your hands, or anything you can notice. Feel free to have your eyes open or closed. Here we go, counting down. 3, 2, 1, and clapping 1, 2, 3, holding your hands out in front of you. What sensations can you notice? Tingling, temperature, maybe a sense of electricity, throbbing. Just seeing if you can hold your attention on the sensations in both of your hands. If your mind wanders, and it will likely, gently guide your attention back to your hands again and again without any judgment. Now focus your attention on the thumb of your left hand. Now the tip of this thumb. Can you move your attention to your left index finger? Now the little finger on your left hand. Can you move it across to your right little finger? Now the right thumb. Now zooming out, noticing sensations in both hands again. Can you notice the temperature in your palms? Any difference between that and the back of your hands? Now allow your attention to expand beyond your hands. Feel free to place them back in your lap. Begin to zoom your attention out to include the rest of your body. Notice your arms going upwards, attention scanning to your shoulders, the chest, and down your back. Noticing your bottom on the chair, the legs, your knees, all the way down to your feet. Feel the weight of your body where it meets the chair or the floor. Notice the movement of energy with the breath as it breathes naturally without any effort. Allowing your awareness to spread throughout the whole body now. Pulling your feet all the way up to the top of your head. And gently shift your awareness to the space around you. Notice the room you're in, where you are in relation to the window, the door. Notice where your attention settles. Is it inside the room or drawn beyond it? Whatever you notice, observe without any judgment. The right place for your attention to be. And if it feels comfortable, allow your awareness to zoom out further. Sense where this room sits within the building. Where the building is within the town, the country, the world, perhaps even the wider solar system. There's no need for clear images, just noticing the felt sense of being part of something larger. When you're ready, letting go of this practice, noticing points of contact like your bottom on the chair, your feet on the floor, your hands in the lap. Open your eyes if you've had them shut. And if you can, gently stand up, move through your space, noticing sounds, light, physical sensations as you move, and the invitation is to open the door in the room that you're in and return to where you just were sitting. If it feels okay, then try shutting your eyes now with the door open, and notice if your awareness now feels more in the room or out of the room. Is your awareness being pulled more out of the room? Is it harder to keep your focus or your attention in? Just letting go of that just might feel uncomfortable. Just allowing yourself to breathe in deeply, letting go of this practice. Just noticing how your attention was focused like a torchlight moving between your fingers, and how the difference is your awareness can be more mindful or understand or be aware of more things. So your place in your town, county, world, etc. So just a thing to be able to play with. We're just noticing and allowing, not judging or anything. But if that was okay for you, feel free to try that again or with different ways. Clapping your hands, changing your focus of attention, and zooming out, becoming aware of your awareness. Autopilot is when we move through life automatically. Our thoughts, actions, and reactions unfold without conscious awareness. It's like driving a familiar route and realizing that you don't remember the last few minutes. It's a natural, habitual way of us navigating daily life that helps us to multitask, and it can be very useful. But spending too much time in this mode can quietly deplete our energy. Our cognitive bucket might feel heavy with repetitive or racing thoughts. Our emotional bucket might fill with frustration, worry, or irritability. Our physical bucket can tire from tension that we barely notice, maybe in the shoulders. Over time, these factors can leave us feeling drained, reactive, or overwhelmed. So this is another reason why mindfulness is so helpful for managing fatigue, because it allows us to notice and to step out of autopilot. Awareness gives insight into the undercurrents of our lives, our fatigue buckets, habitual behaviors, bodily tension, and recurring thought patterns. After all, we cannot change what we're not aware of. Without awareness, autopilot can control our lives for years. You might not notice the automatic routines and behaviors that mean we sleepwalk through most of our lives. When we notice our thoughts, feelings, sensations, and behaviors, allow ourselves to observe them fully, we can actively choose how to use our energy rather than letting autopilot determine it. We could all imagine physical tiredness after a long run or an intensive workout. But fatigue is relative, and for some people, even getting out of bed, getting dressed, or brushing their teeth can take real effort. Every activity has a cost, and that cost changes depending on our health, circumstances, and our environment. A helpful way to understand this is the spoon theory, which uses spoons as a metaphor for energy, and each spoon represents one unit of energy. For many people, energy levels are plentiful and daily tasks can be done without much thought or cost. But when we're living with a chronic or medical health condition, the day can begin with a limited number of spoons. And that number can change from day to day. And only you truly know how many spoons you have. So waking up might cost one spoon. Showering or brushing your teeth, another. Getting dressed, another. Something more demanding like a medical appointment may cost several spoons. But it's not just physical effort, it's planning, it's travel, and it's interaction. By the end of it, there might not be very many spoons left for the rest of the day. You can borrow spoons from tomorrow, but if you keep doing that, fatigue accumulates and exhaustion builds. In this program, we'll use the spoon theory during the acknowledge part of the ABC meditations to gently notice what's happening in our physical fatigue bucket. This awareness helps us notice our level of energy, how it's being spent, because every spoon counts. Let's look at the brain in a way that helps us understand why we sometimes react, shut down, or feel overwhelmed. You may have heard of the triune brain model. It's not perfectly accurate from an evolutionary point of view, but it's a helpful way for us to make sense of our experience. It describes the brain in three parts. First is the brainstem, which is sometimes called the lizard brain. It takes care of our vital systems that keep us alive, like breathing, heart rate, body temperature and our automatic reactions. Then there's the limbic system, or the mammal brain. This is responsible for our feelings, memories, and motivations. It also scans for threat and is always asking, am I safe? And finally, there's the neocortex, the thinking or the human brain. This is responsible for our planning, reasoning, reflecting, problem solving, and creativity. When we perceive a threat, whether it's real or imagined, the survival brain can take over and the thinking brain temporarily steps back. A simple way to picture this is like a string of the old Christmas lights that were wired in series. If one bulb blew, the whole string would go out, and your parents would have to test them all to find the faulty one. We can imagine that our brain functions a bit like that when we're under threat. The survival brain has to be on, or we're dead, but the circuit is broken and we cannot access the thinking part of our brain. That's why we sometimes react instead of respond and go into autopilot. This system is brilliant for survival, but in modern life, where pressures are constant, though rarely life-threatening, it can leave us stressed and fatigued. More contemporary neuroscience shows that the brain isn't really in three separate layers, battling it out together. It's an interconnected, adaptable network that's constantly adjusting to what's happening inside us and around us. Neuroplasticity shows how we can reshape our brain in positive ways, and brain cells that fire together wire together. Mindfulness, grounding, and relaxation aren't just coping tools. They actively support the brain to build pathways of calm, clarity, and resilience, which means we're not stuck with our stress responses. And over time and with practice, we can change the structure of our brain so that we don't experience quite as much stress or fatigue. A simple hands-on way to understand the brain is the hand model of the brain. It helps us make sense of what's happening inside us when we feel stressed, overwhelmed, or reactive. So imagine your hand represents your brain, your wrist and forearm is the brain stem, responsible for our basic survival functions, that's working constantly in the background. Now, if you tuck your thumb into your palm, this represents the limbic system, or our emotional brain. If you fold your fingers over the top of your thumb, creating the neocortex, or the thinking brain. So this model shows us how the brain's parts are connected and influence one another. Key components of the limbic system is the thalamus that acts like a switchboard, processing sensory information, except smell, and guiding our attention. There's the hypothalamus, which regulates our hormones and maintains balance and supports the body's stress and relaxation responses. The hippocampus is involved in learning, memory, and navigation. And the amygdala, which is our alert system that's always monitoring for potential threats. It can react quickly and sometimes triggers a fight or flight response before thinking can actually engage. This is often referred as amygdala hijack. So if you quickly free your thumb from your palm, imagining that it's like a trip switch that breaks the circuits, just like those Christmas lights, we see that our survival and instinctive behaviors have taken over and we cannot access the prefrontal cortex, which acts as our brain's executive center. So it helps us to pause, plan, and regulate our emotions. And during moments of stress, the amygdala can temporarily dominate, meaning we cannot think our way out of a situation. Regular mindfulness practice supports the prefrontal cortex and moderates the amygdala reactivity. Research shows that consistent practice reduces the size of the amygdala in terms of cortical density, and this directly reduces our sense of perceived threat or stress. The default mode network, or DMN, is active when we're not focused on a specific task. You can think of it as the brain's standby mode, and even when we look like we're resting, the mind might still be very busy in the background. When the DMN is active, we tend to drift into mind-wandering, I, me, mine, self-referential thinking, replaying the past, imagining the future, creating stories and comparing ourselves to others. This network is not the enemy. It supports creativity and planning, but it can also fuel rumination and worry, and it uses up a lot of our energy. So when we're doing nothing, the brain may still be working very hard. The DMN doesn't distinguish between what's happening now in the actual real moment and what's only happening in our thoughts. Replaying a conversation or anticipating an appointment can trigger the same stress response as if it was actually unfolding right now in front of us. Over time, that constant mental activity can contribute to fatigue, low mood, anxiety, and emotional reactivity. So this is where mindfulness comes in. When we gently bring attention to the breath or to the body or to sounds around us, we engage a different network, which is called the task positive network. This network supports focus, clarity, and grounded attention. So we shift from wandering to presence, from rumination to awareness. And each time you notice that your mind's drifting, that's not a failure. It's just simply the DMN doing what it does. Each time you gently guide your attention back, you're strengthening the muscle of attention, conserving mental energy and creating a little space between stimulus and response. And over time, that space makes a real difference. The default mode network is often called the brain standby mode. It switches on when we're not focused on a task, and when the mind drifts, reflects, or ruminates. It's made up of several key areas, and each part plays a reason in why our thoughts about the past or the future or ourselves feel so compelling. There's the medial prefrontal cortex, which you might think of as an emotional sensor. It asks, how does this affect me? What do others think of me? When it's active, thoughts can become self-focused, comparing ourselves to others with judgment and self-critique. There's the posterior cingulate cortex, or the integrator. It links memory and emotion to our sense of who we are. It's like the narrator of our inner story, replaying the past or imagining what might happen next. There's the hippocampus, which is like a librarian. It retrieves memories, it's helpful for learning, but also capable of fueling rumination. And then there's the amygdala, or our radar man, always scanning for threats. It could be reactive to a stressful thought, as if it's happening right now, amplifying emotion in the body. And when these regions work together, mind wandering is natural. Overthinking, self-referential loops, and emotional reactivity. And this isn't a design flaw, it's what the brain does, and it's how it's evolved and what it's supposed to do, keeping us prepared, aware, and connected to our sense of self. But in modern life, this system can become very overreactive. And that overreactivity can drain our mental energy, increase anxiety, and deepen fatigue. Mindfulness then offers a gentle shift. So when we bring attention to the breath, the body, or simple sensory experience, we engage the task positive network, and that supports our focused, grounded awareness. Over time, balancing these networks builds regulation, steadiness, and a deeper sense of presence. So, having explored the default mode network, it helps us to meet its counterpart, the task positive network, or TPN. If the DMN is the drifting mind, imagining, replaying, and reflecting, the TPN is the engaged mind, alert, present, and focused on what's here. The TPN activates whenever we direct attention to something specific in the moment. Following the breath, noticing sensations in the body, listening carefully to a sound. Whether we're engaging fully in a task or simply being here rather than being in the past or the future, this is when the TPN is active. Thinking becomes steadier, clearer, and we're less caught up in the stories about ourselves and more anchored in our experience. It supports organization, decision-making, and purposeful action. And here's something important. The DMN and the TPN don't run full strength together. So when one steps forward, the other softens. So each time you bring your attention back to the breath, to the posture, to sensations or anything going on in the present moment, you're gently shifting from the wandering DMN to the presence of the TPN. In mindfulness practice, this returning is the training. Again and again, we pause and come back. And over time, this becomes easier. It becomes more natural. We become more skilled at doing it. And that's why mindfulness is often described as an attention training exercise, because we're helping the brain spend less time in draining loops of worry and more time in steady, grounded awareness. But for my mind, attention is the foundation of all other cognitive processes, and mindfulness is the best attention training exercise we can do. The task positive network is the brain's focused mode. You can think of it as a coordinated team with each part contributing to clarity and steadiness. First, there's the lateral prefrontal cortex, or director, and it guides attention and decision making. It helps you choose where to focus and where to ignore distractions. When you notice your mind's wandering and you gently bring it back, that's your director at work. Then there's the anterior cingulate cortex, or the attender. It monitors focus moment by moment, and it notices when attention slips and supports a return without force. The insula is our internal sensor. It tunes into the body, the breath, heartbeat, tension, ease. And it helps you feel what's happening inside, but it's also important for compassion. And then there's the primary somatic sensory cortex, or the external sensor, that registers pressure, your bottom on the chair, your feet on the floor. And it anchors you in the physical world. When this team works together, the mind becomes clearer, steadier, and more present. Engaging the TPN shifts energy away from the wandering and often draining loops of the DMN and toward grounded awareness. Crossing the bridge of awareness is a metaphor that you might find helpful, as it's quite hard to picture networks in our brain. So imagine that your mind is a wide landscape with two sides of a ravine. On opposite shores stand two buildings that are connected by a sturdy bridge. The bridge is your breath. Okay, on one side is the reflection shore. There's a warm wooden lodge that's tucked into trees, and this is the home of your default mode network. Inside are our four familiar guides: the librarian, who's bringing up memories; the radar man, who's outside on the porch looking for threats; the integrator, weaving your story of your life about me; and the sensor, asking, what does this mean for me? This lodge is rich, and it helps you learn, imagine, understand, and reflect on yourself. But staying here too long, especially when you're tired or stressed, can make everything feel heavy. Thoughts replay, worries grow, and energy drains. Across the bridge, however, is the focus office, which is bright and spacious and grounded in the present. This is the task positive network. Here works the other team, the director, guiding attention; the attender, noticing when focus drifts; the internal sensor, tuning into the breath and the body; and the external sensor, anchoring you in the world around you. This space feels steady, clear, and intentional. And connecting them is the breath. Each inhale, attention sharpens. Each exhale, attention softens. Slow, steady breathing signals safety, and the nervous system helps us to calm down. It helps the brain shift from reflection to focus. Your mind will naturally move between these two shores, and both matter. Reflection brings us insight. Focus brings us presence. Mindfulness isn't about staying on one side or the other. It's about noticing that you can cross the bridge. And with practice, that crossing becomes easier, and you can choose whether you want to reflect and stay with a thought about yourself or whatever's going on, or focus. And that's part of this course, using the B section, and the B being the breath, and using the breath as a bridge. So using the bridge metaphor between the reflection shore and the focus shore, we can begin to see what fatigue does. On a good day, we can move fairly smoothly between the two. We reflect, and we focus and plan and act. There's a balance. But when energy is low, the reflection shore, or the default mode network, can start to dominate. You might notice thoughts are drifting more easily, we're replaying the past, or imagining what-if futures. There's a stronger pull towards I, me, mind thinking. Thoughts feel heavier and are more repetitive and harder to release. And at the same time, the strengths of the focus shore, such as clarity, planning, and decision-making, may feel reduced. It can seem as though the bridge is still there, but it's harder to cross. Steps feel slower, breathing becomes shallow, and the mind lingers in reflection. In everyday life, this might look like zoning out whilst we're trying to concentrate, struggling to start simple tasks, feeling stuck in your head, or caught in loops of self-talk. This is where the ABC practice becomes practical. Acknowledge. Notice what's happening in your mind and your body without judgment. Breathe. Use the breath as a bridge. Connect. Ground yourself in the body, the room, or the task in front of you. Over time, crossing the bridge becomes more natural. And this isn't abstract. It can be done and used in real time, in real life. So if you're faffing with your wallet at a checkout, if you're sitting in a waiting room before an appointment, if you're lying awake at night with a busy mind, in those moments, you can simply take a breath and step onto the bridge. Welcome to the Home Practice for Class 2. Remember that these activities are gentle invitations to explore mindfulness and notice your energy. They're not tasks to judge yourself by. Okay, number 1 is please have a go at the daily meditation practice if you can. Please set aside a short amount of time per day and either do the 15-minute body scan or the 10-minute ABC meditation, whatever feels best. Aim to practice once a day for the next 6 days if you can, but listen to your body and pace yourself, okay? During the meditations, let go of any expectations. You may notice many sensations or only a few. Might be something different each time. All of this is normal. Simply observe whatever arises with kindness and without judgment. After each session, you might note your reflections or your feelings or anything that felt easy or challenging in your home practice diary. Remember, this is only for your own eyes and for your own use. It's helping to build your awareness. It might support some of the reflections in our next meeting. You may like to alternate between sitting or lying meditation or with the mindful movement one. Gentle stretching, walking, and other simple activities that feel supportive can be done in a mindful way. Please manage your screen time. Remember to win the first hour to win the day. Try and reduce your mobile phone use in the first hour after waking up and the last hour before bed. Our brain wakes up with more cortisol in the morning, so everything is a bit more stressful. It's like wearing stress spectacles. Okay. Number 3, please try a 5-minute breath awareness each day. Just taking 5 minutes to sit quietly, totally, and noticing your breath. Allow it to flow naturally without trying to change it, because your breath can serve as an anchor. And the more we practice it, we might be able to gently bring our attention back to the present moment when we need to. Have a go at completing the pleasant events diary each day. Noticing one pleasant event or experience, no matter how small, could be a cup of tea, a bird outside your window, or a kind word from someone. Recording these moments helps us to cultivate awareness and gratitude. We'll be talking about that in the class. Try and do another mindful activity. Choose one everyday activity such as brushing your teeth or showering or making a cup of tea, and do it with a full mind. Approach it with curiosity, attention and care, noticing each movement, sensation and detail. Remember, this week is about gently tuning into your experience, noticing your energy and exploring mindfulness in practical ways. There's no right or wrong way. This is just observation and practice. So please have fun, and I'll see you next week. And finally, let's just take a moment to check in with our own 3-zone model, noticing how your energy feels right now. With no need to judge, we're just simply observing with curiosity and kindness. So, are you in the green zone? Feeling steady, comfortable and at ease. Mind is clear, the body's settled and emotions are balanced. Are you in the amber zone? Maybe noticing mild tension or challenge, foggy thoughts, slight irritability or physical tightness. Or are you in the red zone? Feeling overwhelmed, exhausted or drained. Physical fatigue, emotional heaviness, mental overload. Just acknowledge this with kindness. It's not about fixing anything or moving to a different zone, just about noticing where you are. Maybe perhaps noticing which of the fatigue buckets feels the fullest, physical, cognitive or emotional. This is just a small pause as part of our practice, and over time these brief moments support our mindfulness. If you're in the red zone, please have a break and please have a wonderful week.